I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with DP Paula Huidobro. Paula, first of all, I thought your work in Welcome to Chippendales was so compelling. There's so much to talk about. Before we do, what did you most appreciate and value about creators Robert Siegel and Jenny Connor and what they brought to the table when you first signed on to the production?
I mean, I absolutely love working with Rob. I've worked with him before on Pam and Tommy, and he seems to be drawn to these like darker, funny, weird stories that like have multiple layers and are sort of visually interesting, not in a pretty obvious way, but in a kind of dark, complicated manner, which are really fun for me. And he's very trusting and a good person as well.
You know, I was thinking that Robert brought on a lot of people from Pam and Tommy to come back. So he must have really enjoyed and appreciated all the artisans that he had on that show. And there are similarities because it's dark. Welcome to Chippendales is a dark story, but there's so much comedy in it as well. And so tonally, it's actually quite difficult to categorize. How does that impact the work of the director of photography when the show is tonally unusual and not just a comedy and not just a drama?
I love to capture humor sometimes with images, and like sometimes there's a way to photograph things that sort of enhance or help the comedy or get out of the way of the comedy. But I think Welcome to Chippendales, like there was like so much research and inspiration just from the real club and Los Angeles, and like looking at all those photographs, and the set was quite incredible as well, and it sort of evolved. And yeah, I mean, I think visually there was a lot going on, like all the dancers and the dance sequence, and so I think there was a lot to grab on to create a world.
Yeah, I can imagine. That's actually a good use of phrase, given that so many of the audience members at the Chippendales Club were doing a lot of grabbing. But that's a whole other story. That was my attempt at So I'll tell you what I really love. This is my favorite shot. When we're in the office upstairs with Steve Banji, played beautifully by Kamal Nanjiani, and it's dark, and because he is a dark character, but outside and downstairs, there's a lot of fun and happiness going on. And you used the reflective properties of glass better than anyone I've seen in a really long time. And I'm a layperson. I have no idea how you do that, but it doesn't look very easy. So can you talk me through the use of glass and reflection, particularly with those beautiful disco balls, and why you wanted to incorporate that in the way that this was going to be shot?
I think, yeah, Kumal or the character of that Kumal was playing had a lot of depth, and he was an immigrant, but he was also racist, and he was a complicated, dark human being. And I mean, even though he was stepped on, he had no problem getting rid of people. Like he was morally ambiguous, and I think, I don't know, I love when like his office was upstairs and he could see things, but there was always like something sort of hiding who he really was as well. And yeah, I mean, and the set was pretty amazing to work on. Like there were all these like amazing lighting and angles, and then it sort of evolved with the show as well.
Yeah, production designer Richard Bloom did mention that, they went to a lot of effort to create this space for the cast to really work in. And he mentioned you specifically and said that, Paula did such a beautiful job in capturing all the little details that he and set decorator Lynette McCown were able to achieve on the set. When you arrive on a set like this beautiful club that they constructed on a stage, what was going through your mind in terms of all the little bits and pieces of it that you wanted to try to capture?
I mean, I think I was pretty inspired by the killing of the Chinese bookie and like Robbie Miller and sort of like the grittiness and like sort of a little bit of dirt on the image and the whole club thing and the drinking and I think we wanted to like do these all long takes, like long masters. And we were primarily on Zoom the whole show. So it was like these dolly tracks and just sort of finding things and zooming and like letting the actors sort of play with the whole space. And then the camera was a little bit more voyeuristic and yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I noticed that too. You didn't, to me, in the club especially, the camera is very it's very organic, like it moves around a lot and it's not static like I would have maybe expected on a show that is so technical because of all the dancing and the crowd and the lighting and it's dark. So that's a risk that you and the team have to take. And I want to talk a bit more about that voyeurism because I did feel like I was immersed in the story, but I felt like I was moving around the actors who were dancing, like as if I shouldn't even be there because it's so intimate. And so why did you decide to do it that way with lots of dolly shots and moving the camera throughout the space?
I think, I mean, because it was a period piece and also, I don't know, it just like Cassavetes films really inspired me for this show for some reason. And I felt like they gave freedom to the actors to like sort of have space and like be able to do the whole take and not have to break it up into tiny little pieces and be more static. So I think it was more organic for the show and also the longer lenses like sort of lent themselves to capturing the period as well.
And
I mean, it wasn't meant like pretty lighting or
no.
like, so it was okay if it was a little gritty or dirty.
Yeah, it is really gritty and dirty. And then the spotlights go on the men who are dancing, and then suddenly it becomes this other thing. And that movement and choreography that I felt like your camera really captured it. And I was wondering if you're doing long takes that are moving around, do you still have to do coverage from different angles, or were you happy to just continue using the same kind of like trajectory on every take? Like, how did that work as the DP?
I think, I mean, we really work with Matt Jackman. He's a great director and he's very experienced and he's great with actors. And I think we would try to create like dynamic blocking so it wouldn't be just people standing without moving, talking to each other, to just sort of using the space and discovering things. And I think we always thought about like sort of creating the master and then whatever else was missing, then we would like go in, but we would try to like capture as much as possible with the first take or so.
What do you most love about the 80s and even the late 70s as a period? And because it's such a beautiful, striking visual aesthetic, and a lot of us still remember it. It's not like as if it's the 1800s. Like this is an era that we still have vague memories of. You did it with Physical and even Pam and Tommy, and now on Chippendales. What's your favorite part of shooting a show that's based in the 80s?
I mean, yeah, I mean, I lived through part of the 80s myself, and yeah, it makes you feel kind of warm to be able to travel in time and be there. But I mean, there's all these like great photographs and inspiration, and I think it just like makes you pay more attention to capture like what's there. I don't know.
You know how the club features those huge disco balls in the middle? I felt like a lot of your shots involve those disco balls in some way, and I wonder if the way they reflect and refract light, does that pose any challenges for you as the DP when you've decided how the set's going to be lit, or is that actually something you intentionally wanted to use as your focal point on a lot of those shots?
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they actually enhanced the sort of the atmosphere. And I mean, there were also all these mirrors, and also on physical we had like mirrors everywhere, so we've become a little bit of experts with dealing with mirrors. And yeah, no, and I think, I mean, it was quite an exciting show to do. Like the choreography got even better and better, and it was actually fun to be there, and like having like 150 extras and like all the dancers, and sort of learning the choreography as well. Like it was pretty important.
And then what about the external shots of the club? They're really dark, darker than I would have expected. And the only real light that you really enhance is the signage that says Chippendales, or that says like backgammon in the beginning. And was there anything about lighting and shooting the scenes that are outside where we can still capture the faces of the people lining up, but it felt dingy and dark and kind of mysterious? Why did you decide to go that way and not really make it look, light and spectacular and fun? Why did it have to be dark?
I don't know. I think to me on this show, I really didn't want the light to be noticed. Like sometimes when you watch a film and you're like, oh, it's like really beautiful lighting, but you can tell that it's lit, and I wanted it to feel more organic and more, I don't know, almost like those films that like Robbie Miller, or like a little bit more grain, and I don't know, I just felt like it would add to the world and to the experience.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. And you shot the first 6 episodes of the series, and then you handed over the show to Jimmy Lindsay. Why did that happen? Was there a particular reason why you only did the first 6 episodes?
Well, no, I didn't want to do that. I had a movie that came up, and it was written by Diablo Cody, and it was a really great feature film. So I just unfortunately had to go.
And so what's it like then to hand over the baton to another cinematographer to make sure that the series still has a consistent look and feel? Because the audience would not have noticed that there were 2 DPs on the show.
Yeah, I mean, all the rest of the crew stayed on, so the operators and the gaffer and the key grip, and then Rob was there as well, and the showrunner. So there was like a consistency in everyone else. And yeah, I mean, I was sad to leave, and I absolutely love Rob, so hope he forgives me.
Yeah, you just have to wait for the next project. I wanted to go back in time a little bit prior to your work with Rob Siegel, and that is you were the DP on Coda, and that was such a a huge achievement for a small film like Coda on Apple Films to win the Oscar for Best Picture. And even though you weren't an Oscar nominee at the time, you were still kind of part of the team. Do you remember what that? I mean, you weren't involved in the film anymore, but what were your feelings of having the film that you shot become such a sensation and then win the Oscar?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was pretty magical. I've been doing a lot of work with Sean since we were both film students. So we've done like 3 short films and a TV show and another film together. So we've definitely grown as filmmakers together, and we're friends as well, and also with her family. So it was quite magical to get to do this small film and then get to see it take off, like quite unbelievable to me.
I can only imagine. And then I mean, like, what? That's so cool. A couple of years before that, you were actually nominated at the Emmys for your work on Barry, Know Your Truth. It's such a good episode. Again, funny, dark, gritty. I think that's becoming the Paula Huidobro kind of look. Um, what was that like being an Emmy nominee? Was that an exciting time?
Yeah, I mean, it was the first TV show I had done. So I wasn't hoping as like now I really want to get an Emmy, but back then I was like, oh wow, like I didn't really expect it. But I mean, I think it was really great material, and Bill Hader is so talented and so clear, and like the world was pretty weird and the tone. So I guess people noticed it.
Yeah, and I'm hoping they'll notice your work in Chippendales because I was expecting like a kind of a really funny and silly show, and this looks like a beautiful gritty 70s independent film, and a lot of that has to do with the choices you made. So Paola, congratulations on some great work, and thank you so much for your time today.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.